Hi, welcome to Empowered. I'm Emma Herbert, the Chief of Happiness here at Red. Before we kick off, I'd like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the past, present and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation and the continuation of cultural, spiritual and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. I further acknowledge the land on which we are recording today and the work of the Turrbal and Yugara peoples. We all have a story to tell and we all have a story that we need to hear. Your story will save another soul and it will make another soul shine. And for this reason, Empowered was born. Be it your career success, fitness achievement, finding that elusive personal work-life balance, selling a business you started from scratch and explaining the struggles that you had throughout. There is a queen right now who is struggling to stay above water and they need to hear your story. If you had the cure to cancer, you'd tell everybody about it. So your cure is the story you hold and that's the story that you need to share. Welcome to Empowered. So today I have a very, very, very special friend. Well, she's more than a friend. She's like my surrogate wife and my children's second mother. And her queen in our presence today is Angela Holz, the one and only.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Thank you for joining me here today. I know that you probably were maybe a little nervous being here, but thank you for being courageous enough to just say, yes, Emma, I'll be there.
This will be my first podcast.
So exciting. Do you listen to many podcasts?
I do. Good. So it's different being on the other side.
It's good, hey? But you can see, like, there's some people who almost have imposter syndrome, and I don't know if that came into play, but it's a real thing where people go, why are you asking me to be on a podcast?
Yep.
But I just explained the intention of why everyone who sits in this chair is here is because we all have a story.
Yep.
And you and I have always, well, probably me more so, been more vocal. You always offer me safe space to share my ups, downs and in-betweens, and I thank you for that and I love you for that.
You're welcome.
I really sometimes feel shitty about myself that I quite often call on you the times that I call on you more than I do in the bad times than I do the good times, but that's like
friends and family do, right?
Exactly.
That's
it's a testament to friendship.
Yeah.
So on that note, Angela, you're not here because, well, you are here because you're my friend. Thank you for saying so. But the reason that I really wanted you to be here and I want the people watching and listening to see and hear what you have to say is it's probably something that I don't recognise or be vocal enough about, but how fucking proud I am of you and your accomplishments.
Oh, thank you.
You're a pillar of strength for me and you're constant motivation and inspiration in many, many avenues. You're a way better mum than I am. Oh my God.
That is not
and
true.
Way better godmother or godmother for those of you who aren't Italian. I pretend to be Italian, but anyway. You're one of the best things that's come out of my marriage. You're the sister that I never had, and I know I can't steal you from your genuine sister Amanda because that's not fair. Yeah, we can share you. But so for those of you who don't know, I married into the Herbert family. The Herbert family are best friends with the Weiss family, and then obviously Amanda. I do that all the time.
That happens.
Amanda and Angela. Angela married into the Holz family. Smoking hot husband. So amiable.
Not sharing him.
No, not sharing him. But we get to love on him regardless.
Yep.
But you married into I married into a family that has got some beautiful friendships there, and your mum and Chris's mum met when you were first babies at Mother's Club, which is just that's an insane story.
Yeah, we were babies and grew up together.
And you had no choice in the friendship.
No.
It was like, that'll happen.
Because both of our siblings loved each other as besties, so we were always going to be around, and you live around the corner and one street back, and
it's like that
there
regional.
all the time. But it was awesome. It was so good to have another family.
It's
to
like
grow
that
up with.
country, mentality.
Yeah.
Like you guys were walking distance.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that one family has sold, and it's not the same. But we still will keep that friendship forever and a day. And then getting to see our kids be really good friends too.
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have adopted me as your own, and I love that about our friendship. And that's part of why you're here today. But the other side of it is you've been an absolute weapon in your career. And I don't know that you've often taken the time and the place and the space to recognise and reward yourself in that self-reflection.
Very true.
Do you do self-reflection in that?
I do, but I don't get too hung up on it. I think I'm so focused on the go forward and where to from here. And sometimes I look back and that gives me courage to keep going in those really hard times. But I don't really sit there and kind of go, look at all this stuff I've done
but
and tick it all off. But,
don't you think, I think especially as females, we don't probably do it enough because we seem like dickheads. Like we don't want to seem cocky, but we should be. Like my previous guest, Sonia Bernhard, who has an OAM, she was nominated 3 times for that. So 3 times, 3 separate people wanted her to win, and she did. Yep. And she was kind of in this like, really? I'm nobody. You're not nobody. We're all not nobody. We're all doing phenomenal things. And coming into this podcast, like it's about your story and it's going to resonate with someone. Yep. Just for the viewer and the listener, we are going to keep to around a 30-minute time because the intention also too is I want it to be some sound bites that you can do in the car on the way home or on the way to work. Yep. And that's about the time people are in the car. I can babble forever, so I sort of also have to put that construct on for myself. But what I wanted to really unpack is your career. Like I obviously was there for the majority of your journey, but the ins and outs and the nitty-gritty of what you've done in the time you've done, and also managing your husband being self-employed. Yep. And let's be honest, you're the bones of that business, mate. He just does the physical yards. But also to juggling motherhood. Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack that selfishly I'd really like to. Exactly. So can you sort of take us through, and I think the motherhood juggle will blend naturally or come out organically off the back of it, but start me from obviously graduating and then also too in Worlds Collide, Angela was actually in the grad program with Brad Ferris, our CEO here at Red, and that's really cool. He tells me some hilarious stories that I didn't know about,
which are not going to make it.
I'm sure that you can tell me some that I don't know about him too, and give some dirt on him. But looking back, he was a grad that went into EY program in their internship or cadetship program with dreadlocks. Yep. What the?
Yep.
And then
he was
obviously
so cool though. He was a DJ.
He was cool, wasn't he?
The coolest one in the group.
Brad, you're not cool anymore. No, he is still very cool. Coolest CEO I know most of the time. But yeah, let's go from the very beginning and let's just shut up at the Emma show and let's go over to Angela.
So really my career kind of started like you kind of skip the best and less of the worlds that you do while you're in uni and running restaurants. But even I guess even just in my uni job, I had this passion for being able to organise and run things. So I was kind of organised front of house at a restaurant, and I'll kind of just kick the owners out and stuff. I got this. So it kind of just all started. I guess it was something that was already inherent in me, and I found I enjoyed it, and that was an area that I just continued to grow. But then, I was studying a Bachelor of Business, majoring in accounting. Numbers made me excited, things balancing again. Don't judge me for it.
No, I don't. I need you. We need people like you.
So studied through uni, and then it was kind of at the end, I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with this? And all these offers and things came out, and I went for the Big 4 because I'm kind of on the basis of...
You don't muck around, mate.
No, I was like, well... They're probably going to have the most amount of positions, so that's going to increase my chances, again, talking numbers, of getting a job. And then they asked you to pick a division. I'm like, tax? No, can't really see myself doing that. Audit has the most amount of positions available.
So you were a bit strategic with your approach.
I was kind of like, okay, maybe I just get in the door, see if I like it. I did a subjective audit, but who knows what that is.
One subject.
Yep. And then you kind of go from there. And really when I started at EY, it was I guess they got a hierarchical structure. So it was kind of you come in as a grad, you do these kind of jobs. I was photocopying, carrying bags around, carrying printers, like getting the stationery for the rest of the team. Yeah, you do coffee runs, blah, blah, blah. Grads these days won't do that.
But, don't even start.
Yeah, that's it. But I guess I was in a structure or in an organisation that had a structure, and they kind of were very clear on what you needed to do, what they expected of you. They gave you all the training and the support. But then I was always just, I guess, out of habit looking at that next step. Okay, well, what's the next step after grad? What's after that? And then start to learn and do those things. And so a really strong motto that I had worked towards from the beginning was try and make the person above me redundant. And I guess that was kind of, giving me something to aspire to, but not putting too much pressure on myself. But I'd kind of look at the people who are above me, the seniors, the managers, even up to the partners to some point, and you kind of go, well, I don't like how they do things. I don't like how they manage teams, but I like how this person does it.
That's good.
Maybe not how they do that thing. So it was almost like picking the best bits out
like
of
a blend,
everybody that I was working with and kind of instilling those values in me, and kind of putting in the back of my mind of, when I'm a manager one day, I'm not going to treat my staff like this.
I think that's probably that there, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's so vital to climbing the ladder is that foresight of when I am, not if, when I am. Because you've got to back yourself. Like climbing the corporate ladder is not for everyone, or climbing any ladder is not for everybody. That's tricky. That's really that's a really cool point. I try and grab some sound bites that others can take away. Imagine like ticking a box of that's a hot tip. There is a hot tip. Like have the courage and have the foresight to go, I will be, but what will I look like?
Exactly. And so that just continued on through my career. I stayed there for 16 years.
Was it that long?
That long. In a job that was very demanding, high pace. It was client servicing, so you had to be on.
I remember we wouldn't see you for months on end. We had to plan our family holidays around you being busy.
Like, don't even talk to me July and August or January and February. Like just
March, you'll see me again.
I might come up for air. But it was just, you always felt like you were on. So you're either on for the client, you're on to perform or to be that person in your team. You were there for your other for other team members, and so that was really draining, and I am surprised that I was there for 16 years, but I did enjoy it along the way. There were so many challenges, things that I learnt, and that was another thing that I took away from that job. I was kind of like, well, I'm not going to stop or do anything different if I'm still learning and enjoying what I'm doing. And like working crazy hours was not enjoyable, but I learnt a lot. I achieved a lot.
Not sustainable too.
Like that's it, and that's when it came to nearly 2 years ago now. January will be my anniversary when I switched jobs, and that was kind of a big career move for me.
And you have to applaud yourself for that, because when I remember when I was having lunch in Post Office Square one day, and you said, I think I'm going to leave where you were.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to say it? EY?
Yeah.
Big notable company. Global organisation, been there. I didn't realise that it had been that long, but it felt like forever. So you've grown up in an organisation, right?
Yep.
You were single, a grad, young, unsure, grew your confidence, grew your skills, climbed the ladder, got married, had babies. And then all of a sudden it's like it's time. I felt it was like it's time for me. You know, you'd had, that's a fairly long innings for anyone, but especially nowadays. But that's a really courageous move, because you're almost institutionalised. That's not me inflicting anything on EY, but in any organisation, that's a scary move to make for most people.
It was really scary. Yeah, absolutely. And I think doing 6 years, or it was probably 7, nearly 8 years with kids in that kind of high pace, high stress environment. I had kind of planned around when I was going to have kids, and to the point where I'd go,
I told you she's organised.
Maybe you shouldn't be away for busy season, so let's try and get pregnant in this round. But that didn't work, of course, because nothing ever goes to plan when it's got to do with that. But really, I did think about when was the right time. So it wasn't just because as soon as we got married, I wanted to have kids straight away. And then again, body didn't let us do that. But I made sure that I guess we were set up financially. We had a house, those sorts of things, and thought, well, I think this is the time that I could kind of do that juggle. I didn't know what was ahead of me. That's for sure. Bloody hell.
We have no idea.
To have so I've got 2 kids now. But when I had Xavier, my first, I came back part time. I did after about 8 or 9 months, 3 days a week.
How was that progression back, given the hours you were doing and the level at which you were doing, and then coming back part-time with the mindset, I love your work ethic, because I have a strong work ethic too. How was that? Did you feel guilt that you weren't taking on more, and you were part-time, but you had to, really limit yourself and put boundaries in place? Tell me about that.
Yeah, boundaries was the buzzword, right? So I was probably one of the earlier people to have a not a fair work agreement, a flexible work arrangement,
right, okay.
Where I did come back part-time, and I also had a day from home. So I
remember that.
I cut out the commute, and this was back when this was all kind of the new thing.
This
and
was
not
before
very many
working
people.
from home with COVID,
exactly, yeah. So it was kind of like a new thing, and it took some time to get people in the team used to that. And those boundaries would be crossed. The phone's always on. I'm checking checking emails all the time.
I remember you saying you'd work at night until your laptop went flat and that was your boundary.
That was my boundary because it was kind of like I could plug in and I would keep going. I would absolutely keep going and I'd kill myself and not realise and pay the price the next day. But that was a way that I could put a control on myself without really putting.
Isn't that crazy? Like you look back and both of us had not the smoothest transition into motherhood. We're both maternal, but it didn't come naturally and we had some hurdles. But you look back and look at the juggles that we both faced. I don't know how we made it out on the other side.
People ask me all the time. I have no idea how I do it.
How are we still married?
I have to put one foot in front of the other.
You do.
And if it doesn't work, you try something else. And so there were so many points where I said to my husband, I was like, well, this is not working. I can't keep up on the washing. I can't do this and cleaning the house and doing etc. Like all those sorts of things. And we just then said, okay, well, what needs to change?
Yeah, exactly.
Get a cleaner.
Yeah.
Woo, best decision in the world.
You keep nagging me about that. I've got a RoboVac. Yeah. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I'm a bit OCD with that. But yeah.
But just understand what fills your cup, really. So to me, when I was starting to feel down and I'd been too many hours at work and I was just starting to feel really upset, the only way that could get me out was realising that I needed to fill my family cup. So either go out for the weekend, switch off for the weekend, go and have a little weekend away with the family.
But are you good at the switch off? Like, can you be with family and genuinely be there?
When I plan it like that,
You even have to be so organised to switch your brain off.
Well, because it's kind of like if I don't, and to me, I would check emails at night time and it meant that I didn't have to do it in the morning.
Yeah.
And so...
And you're not a morning person.
I'm not a morning person. I'm a night person.
You hate me when I'm holidaying. Actually, it serves a purpose because I can take your children and you get to sleep in, whereas I'm early to bed, early to rise.
Yeah, that's it. So you just find what works. And if it doesn't work, try something else. And just be courageous to, really sit there and go, well, this isn't working. And I need to do something different. I don't know what that might be, but something needs to change.
Exactly. And I think there's a couple of things, again, the previous guest that came in, she was actually, when she started her first business, she was a single mum with 2 kids, so that's even harder. I always joke and say that we kind of are single mums at some point because our husbands are...
Another child.
Right, exactly. Or they're working, in my case. But... it's one of those things you just need to get to tomorrow.
Yep.
Don't try and solve the world's problems. Just get to the next day and then figure out what that thing is. Yep. But the juggle is real, and I know that this is going to sound super sexist, but the guys really don't get it because that mummy guilt and the constant, like, I've got a school boat that I have to make tonight, Angela.
Yeah.
I don't make boats. But we've got to do that. And I've also got swimming lessons, it's all those things that... and
how am I going to fit all of this in?
I know.
Plus I've got this that I've got to get done by tomorrow for
it's
work.
That juggle. But the other part of it is too, I think comparisonitis can really be detrimental to some negative mental states. In the past I've been caught up in that bad about 15 years ago, I'm not there, I'm not doing that, I'm not, Success is your own and success looks completely different to all of us, and you've got to figure out what makes you happy, what success looks like. But even under your own roof, if it's not working, you have the power to fix it,
and talk to each other about it. And so I know you and I talk a lot, and yes, we do have those sessions where we are kind of husband bashing.
Yes, that's all right. We need that.
I call it venting.
Exactly.
Because we can relate, and it might be completely different issues, but sometimes you just need someone to hear you.
Exactly.
And because you're stuck in your own thoughts. Like you're either stressing about work, stressing about kids, stressing about how you're going to get dinner on the table tomorrow, purely just out of time, not so much money, fortunately.
Thank you, Domino's and Uber Eats, by the way. You've saved my ass a number of times.
That's it. But you just kind of go, I just need a reset. And talking to someone you trust and love dearly on those topics, and just having them to listen and to hear you and to go, you're not alone.
I know, and you're not a weirdo. And sometimes just actually physically getting it out. You know how you hold it in and you pent it up and just getting it out. And sometimes I actually find that when I talk to you about shit, it comes out and I'm like, I'm a bit of a weirdo.
Yeah.
Like, do I really need to lose sleep over that? But it is I think from the start of time to the end of time, women have always had that ability to sit around and yarn and put a cup of tea on or a glass of pretend Sauvignon Blanc wine, half-strength wine with Moscato that I top up with actual wine. But we do have that come together, safe space. And I think we're encouraging more of that in our men and certainly in our young men. With our Xavier and Raphael, we're encouraging more of those conversations because thoughts are amazing, but thoughts are also really quite dangerous if we don't put some, safe space around and some boundaries around it. So women have always done that, and perfect example of us sitting here talking shit for half an hour on a microphone, but somebody out there's going to be listening to it, and they're going to, and so that in itself can be that one of those stories that can save someone, that just speak out, speak up, and speak around to the people that you are. I know I'm probably speaking out of school here, but I know that Angela and myself would definitely be more than happy to speak to anybody who's struggling out there, who just needs to be, I don't care if I don't say a word, that will never happen. Just
to be heard.
Exactly, right? And, I didn't, unlike your mum and Chris's mum, I never did the Mothers Club thing. So I think that's something that we've let go. So I think, you
need your community around you. So whether that's family or a close group of friends, or whether you do join a Mothers Club and just find someone completely random that's going through the same thing at the same time, and you're able to just share those experiences. And
if you've got the same baby age, chances are you're experiencing the same crap. But sorry, I do digress and I interrupted in classic Emma form. But coming back to we're probably at the point that you had babies at EY, you were one of the first that had that flexible work arrangement.
And the other thing that I'd probably just add to that around that time was being able to transition, and this comes back to this all elusive work-life balance. It really doesn't exist. It's now just trying to get multiple things to coexist at the same time.
Sometimes your life's a shit shite. Sometimes your laundry's put away. Sometimes it's not.
July and August, things don't get done. The dishes are dirty. The sheets are a little bit dirty for a little bit longer. It's just working out what to let go of and not to worry about, and what to then focus on. But I really tried to focus on some transition time, and this was something that I learned in a self-development course that EY put on. They did a lot of soft skill type training, which was fabulous. And one of those things that I learnt to do was use my commute time to transition my brain. So I'd transition from mummy brain to work brain.
That's good.
And then on the way home, it'd be from work brain to back to mummy brain. And it'd be, okay, I need to unpack what I did this morning, or the kids are driving me crazy and we've got this at school and I've got to get that ready and I've got to pay this bill and I've got to do that and I'm going to do groceries on Thursday, and work all of that out and kind of process them in your thoughts. I am also a list person, so sometimes I would be a list, and that might be early in the morning when I wake up, not while I'm driving. But thinking about giving yourself time to transition so that you're not thinking about those things overlapping, and then you can get to work, you focus on what you need to do, write a list, compress that and then get it off your brain while you're driving home. So when you walk in that door at home, it's, hi, everyone, how are you going? How's your day? Yep. I've kind of left the stresses because I was putting out
you're
so many.
You're actually in the moment with them.
That's it. Yeah. Like, I had so many stresses that I was dealing with at work, clients, people, teams.
And that's not their fault, right?
They didn't get it. They didn't understand what I did. My husband doesn't understand what I would do on a day-to-day basis, but sometimes I'd need to vent. But most of the time I just go, well, that's tomorrow morning's issue. So as soon as I get in that car, that's then going to be the time that I think about how I'm going to process and deal with that issue. Good. And I just that really helped me compartmentalize that home life to work life and try and get both working, because if you try to do all of those things at once, something falls down. And on that point, another really good bit
here's
that
another
I
hot
learned,
tip, I can feel it.
Is when you have got so many things on, I imagined having 1,000,000 balls or 100 balls up in the air. Yeah. Some of those balls are plastic and will bounce, and some of those balls are glass and will smash.
Oh, that's goosebump material.
And knowing which are which and which you can let bounce or let go through to the keeper and kind of go, you know what, if I don't get to the grocery store today, we will have Uber Eats.
Exactly.
It will bounce.
We have the ability to.
Start.
Good.
But, you might have some really pressing things you needed to get done, because if I don't get it done today, it's going to make tomorrow worse and it's just going to spiral out of control. And that's going to be different for everybody. But acknowledging all those things that are going on at once and working out what to prioritise and be okay with letting some balls bounce.
Good. That's good. I love that. That's a major, major hot tip there. I also think it's one of those things, you look back and the things that you worried about and stressed about and were fretting about back then, in hindsight, it's really not worth it. Not worth it.
I won't eat. I won't sleep.
Just that and work,
They talk now.
Yeah, I know, exactly, right? And it's one of those things, like I remember we went through a phase where Willow regained her dummy. She got really sick, and it just was one of those things. Again, I'll deal with it later. Yep. It's not like we're going to be at her 21st birthday party going, Willow, come on, pass me the dummy, darling. It's time to let go. Who cares?
Yep.
I think we put so much pressure and judgment on ourselves part and parcel of social media is you get the good, you get the bad, and you get the fabricated
Instagram
lifestyle.
Mums that are doing everything awesome.
I just don't subscribe to it anymore. You'll see me without a bra and or makeup on social media, and I just don't give a damn because that's real. And I think we need to see way more realness out there. And I think we're definitely becoming that way. But I think our babies are 10, 5, 8 and 6. Yeah, that's crazy. Back then, I think it was even that short time, I think it was way worse. Like there was Instagram models having babies who lived around the corner from us who weren't
body
Instagram
image
models.
was a big thing for me. I was like, I'm never going to bounce back.
No.
You just have to let it go. I tried, and you try this and you try that and try and give it a focus. Like try is probably the main thing that if it was bugging me enough and I didn't do anything about it, then I've only got myself to blame. But if I tried and maybe I didn't give it 110%, still my fault. Yeah. But hey, I tried.
I've actually kind of come a total 180 with that. You've seen my journey in body fluctuation and eating disorders and exercising to the point of ridiculousness and only smoking cigarettes and taking laxatives to get a six-pack for a VW 45 challenge. I've actually come, a full circle with that in that, like, this is probably the heaviest I've been in a little while, but it's not the most unhappy I've been.
Yeah.
And I've let go of a lot. Turning 40 obviously doesn't help, but anyway, thank God for Botox. But this is the body of a mother who eats ice cream with her kids.
Yeah.
Instead of stressing about, of course there is the borderline of healthy, unhealthy, but
we've both got girls.
Yeah, right.
We've got to set an example, right?
Do you know the other day Willow got on the scales and she said, "Oh, my feet have grown." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Oh, I got on the thing you measure your feet on." Oh, she thinks the scales are for measuring your feet. And I did not correct her on that.
Right, you just go with it, girl.
Yep, we don't talk about fat. We talk about good choices and unhealthy choices. We talk about being strong and fit. But I never want to pull apart my body and show them Chris, he's a bit more prude than I am. Chris is like, you've got a 10-year-old son now, you kind of need to cover up at home. And I'm like, hell no, I want him to see what dimples on the thighs looks like.
The amount of times they come up and go, what are all those lines on your stomach, Mum? I'm like, that's where I grew you.
Yeah, exactly.
When you were growing inside me, you stretched me so much that that's what happens.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And, I think the more we can talk about the realness and the reality of what that looks like, especially for our girls, I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I think we're paving the way for an easier path for our kids, both female and male, but in particular female. Mm-hmm. But also, too, what shining lights they've got to follow with our blazing trails, also, good luck. If they want to be, anyone, they're going to be anyone, but they're both sassy pants, my goodness.
Yep. I often go, like, people tell me all the time, I wonder where they get that from. I'm like, I have no idea.
Oh, BS, it's you. You've got sass all over you. It's just you kind of hide it away until you need to.
That's it.
So the mummy juggle, I know that obviously you were, I'm not going to say lucky because you worked your ass off to get there, but in that space in EY, did you have to sort of internally recreate yourself PR-wise for who you are and being, I know this sounds ridiculous, but being capable in that space when you were the go-to, the workaholic, put yourself through extreme measures to get a job done, and then you almost come back as this different person, and it's kind of like, I've got this, guys, I promise, I'm still capable, I'm still the Angela I was, but how do you go about transitioning into that new life?
Yeah, well, I guess I was, kind of give some context, I would never say no. And
before
saying
or
no,
after kids?
Well, both. It just gradually got better in being able to say no, because I started to learn that if I didn't, my cup that I was talking about before got so empty that I could never fill it back up.
Yeah, okay.
And so really just going, like, I'd sit back and go, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. But
and no is okay.
Yes, and I would just do it. And so that would mean an 11 p.m. phone call, or I'm up working to just get that done by tomorrow morning for someone who needed to look at it.
International clients,
That's
right?
it.
It was never just 9 to 5.
So I kind of needed to sit there and go, am I saying yes to do this for me, as in, it will help my career, or I will look good, or I will,
That's true. That's unpacking the
get
reason
me some brownie points because I got the job done with no complaints? Or am I actually doing this for them? Like, it suits them for me to do this. Exactly. Am I doing it for them to have on time when really they could look at it in the afternoon and I could do this work in the morning? So being able to make that call in my own head, and then having the confidence to then ask the person that's demanding this task of me to be able to say, well, do you actually need that tomorrow morning? And that's a really hard thing. That was a really hard thing to learn how to do. It's
such a simple thing though, isn't it?
Like, can I get to that to you tomorrow afternoon because I've got an appointment in the morning with the kids or whatever. And I did start to feel guilty using the kids as an excuse for not getting something done.
Oh my goodness. I'll be honest, we've used them as an excuse when something isn't wrong because we don't want to get out of it.
That's it. But I did feel guilty kind of because I didn't want to be that person where you say, well, I can't ask Angela to do it because she'll probably have something to the kids to do.
Right.
But I set my boundaries
Yep.
like pretty early, and they probably weren't healthy boundaries. It was kind of like, just give me from 5 till 8 and just let me go home, have dinner with the kids, tuck them in bed.
That's not unreasonable.
And then I log back in at 8 o'clock and I'll do another, however long my battery lasts on my laptop. So like communicating those boundaries was also a key to success.
Hot tip.
Yep. And then being able to just stick by them.
Yeah. Well, that's probably the hardest thing. I'm sure there's a few that slip through the cracks.
Absolutely. Where you kind of go, where you just go, look, I just do have to get this done or whatever the case may be, and you compromise. And life is about compromising, and that's in work and life and everything. So
I talk about your insane success in that corporate space and being in the Big 4, in EY in particular. Can you tell me about like transition in between roles? So you started as a grad, but then where did you climb up to, which I'm very proud of you?
So over the 16 years, I made it to a director in audit, which is basically, I guess, a step below partner. And the trajectory at each of those, I guess, milestones was 2 to 3 years. And again, overachiever, I guess. It was kind of like, well,
I could do that faster.
I want to do it faster. I want to be there. I want to make sure I was on time. The only time it really hicked up was when I had time off for mat leave. And so, during those times.
So were you mid-climb when you had the babies?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or were you sort of settled?
I kind of had got to manager, and that was part of my plan because at that point, life was able to be a lot more flexible because I'm managing teams instead of being out on site. So it was kind of job specific. But at that point, that was kind of the best time to start to have a family, and I could juggle that well. It just meant that my workload was a lot lower than people who work 5 days. So I was able to do that. And then from there, it was just kind of like, okay, well, what's the next milestone? What's the next milestone? And then there became a point where I really needed to decide whether partner was for me because that was kind of the top
because that's
where
the
I
next
could
bit,
go.
right?
And it was kind of like, I'm running out of area to grow. And, it's attractive, the lifestyle and the money and the responsibility and all of that thing. But there were so many parts of being a partner that I didn't enjoy.
Yep.
And for me, I didn't think that
wasn't you.
Wasn't me.
And that's okay.
And I didn't necessarily close the door. But I acknowledged that I might need to start thinking about other things. And to be fair, I probably would still be there if this new job hadn't knocked on my door and it ticked all my boxes and all those sorts of things. But because I was just, I was starting to get to the top of that that ladder and it was probably going to be a jump sideways into something different as opposed to a jump up because I did happen to look at that top level like to be a partner, and there was lots, like don't get me wrong, there were lots of women as partners in EY and a lot of them made it work. But when I really looked at how they made that work, it didn't necessarily sit with me. So they'd either have, husbands that stayed at home or had family structures around them that meant that they didn't do the mummy stuff. So they didn't have the school workload, the life workload, the, cooking, the cleaning,
and that's
everything.
Not you.
And I didn't want to give that up. I could have. But to me, that was part of having kids and what I signed up for. And I wanted to be a present. I'm not saying that they're not, but it was just, I was like, you know what, that's actually not
I think
what
that's
I'm
courageous recognising that because we talk about it all the time, creating a career pathway here as well at Red. Just because someone's had longevity in an industry or in a role or in a business doesn't necessarily mean that they want to be elevated to that level. And, of course, with elevation comes more management, comes more people skills, comes, the juggle is there at work as well as home because you're not just doing the work, you're talking about doing the work and then you're helping other people piece out the work. So there's a lot at play and I applaud you for just going, you know what, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, which is probably most of you, Angela comes from a very Italian. She comes from an Italian background, so massive community, massive family interactions. You can never kick them out of your house when they're there. Start a party at 9 a.m. They're still there at 9 p.m.
Yeah, that's just how we
which
roll.
I love it, right? But that's your lifestyle, that's your life, and that's your family, and that's important. It always has been, always will be. So to recognise that and incorporate it into your life, and meaning that. I go to say that you would sacrifice that next step, but I don't necessarily think it is a sacrifice.
No, it's just a conscious choice of it's not for me. I could have chased the money, but I probably would have been really unhappy. There was lots of other things that putting your life on, whole lifestyle on the line, just signing an audit report kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all the business development and cold calling and trying to win new work and that side of thing wasn't necessarily for me either. So there was, so there's all those sorts of things and just kind of go, well, what is the next step for me? Is that a step sideways and really starting to think about? And again, I had wonderful opportunities at EY where they did their soft skills or their training courses and they put me through an actual, women in leadership course to help me get to director and partner path that was designed specifically for women and challenging and doing all of those things that women usually in that workforce struggle with. So I was able to tap into some of those resources and it really got me thinking, well, what is it that excites
what does it look
me?
Like? Yeah.
And yes, the stress excites me because it keeps me busy, but also the variety of work. And it's, okay, well, how can I get those things doing something else?
Good.
And so being able to, take that away and go, okay, well, this is what ticks my boxes. This is what, makes me happy and this is what doesn't. And sometimes you need to do the things that don't make you happy to, get the experience because you never know what opportunity is behind you, because if I had stuck by that mantra strictly, I probably wouldn't have made the jump to my new job.
That's true.
And because I would have been too scared. I knew what I was doing and where I was.
Safe.
And and I needed to kind of make that leap to then work out what the next steps in my career were going to be.
Well, I know that I've already lent on you a number of times with building a number of projects, pieces of work out here at Red. Obviously with Brad's EY brain and your EY brain, we are going to rip apart a lot of the good stuff that they did there. Certainly not copywriting anything, but the framework, the processes and the strategies, you've got to applaud an organisation as large and as global as EY for what they have done. Soon we aim to be a $100 million business soon. I don't mean overnight. We know how much work's to come. But off the back of that, I thank you for what you have given me in the past and will give me in the future, because there'll be more. And that's something selfishly that I love that I can lean on you for is that, how do we have that foresight? We never want to be corporate, but we need to have a corporate lens to some decision making and org chart mentality and things like that. So, even things like that, part of your story is giving me your story and the good parts of the EY journey to be able to incorporate that here.
And just sharing experiences, whether it is business-like from what I've seen in other businesses. And that's something I'm doing now in my current job. Yes, I'm working for one organisation, but I'm sharing those experiences that I've learnt along my journey and along my way. And I guess it comes back to the whole purpose of these podcasts, right? It's sharing your story to help someone else or sharing an experience to help someone else. And sometimes you don't realise that you can help someone or they don't need to hear that. And sometimes I just sit here and kind of go, well, I'll wait for someone to ask me for some help.
No, don't.
You don't. How are you going to go out and,
don't be quiet. You know me, I'm the loudest person in the world. But it's because, the amount of times that I have had that thought of, oh, nobody wants to hear that, nobody needs to hear that, it's absolutely incorrect. There's someone out there who is teetering on the edge of climbing the corporate ladder or leaving a cruisy, not cruisy, you were never cruisy, leaving an organisation that they've had longevity in or whatever it might be, that this podcast, what they're hearing in their ears and what they're seeing with their eyes might be the reason they go, you know what, if Angela could do it, I'm going to do it too. Absolutely. So that's the whole intention. We have almost run out of time, which we could talk forever, and I dare say there'll be a part 2. I promised Angela lunch and I haven't fed her yet, so we need to do that.
You don't want to get me hungry.
No one wants to get anyone hungry. But Ange, as I said in the beginning, you're not here because you're a family, friend and Gumari. You're here because you're a phenomenal human. The other thing that I want you to take away from it too is I want you to have a lot of self-reflection after this, certainly when it's edited and it's all live on Spotify, etc. You'll sit in a space of, holy shit, that's me. I'm being interviewed about how phenomenal I am and I have the potential to be able to share my story with somebody else. It's a really beautiful place to sit in. And I think you need to applaud yourself more often. We all do, but especially you, Angela Holz, my one and only. But thank you for sitting opposite me. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's been great. Like you don't realise how uplifting it is until you actually do it. Like, I was nervous in the beginning, but hey, you kind of go, well, even if just one person listens and can take something away and kind of go, oh, someone told me this. You don't have to remember who told you. But if someone, can just remember and take that away and apply it someday,
to something, whether it is the mummy juggle or corporate world.
Or catching those balls that are about to fall
I know.
down.
I'll never not picture balls. My previous guest talked about orgasms and now we are talking about balls. So there's never a moment of inappropriateness with them where you know that. So, I'm going to start closing now. But thank you. You're amazing. I love you. You'll never not be in my life. You'll never not be I call her my fake sister because she gets all the good with the bad as well. But thank you for everything you do in my life and the children and for Chris.
You're very welcome.
And thank you for being here today. I love you, Angela, and you're amazing. Thank you again for joining us. I hope you gained something out of today. I know you will. And thank you again for being here to listen, to learn, to share. Please share this podcast or poddie as I like to call them. And again, thank you and welcome to Empowered.